Welcome everyone to the PYRESWAP show for another fantastic Tuesday episode, which is this is a new time slot. If you aren't aware, this is a new time slot, and we are I guess excited for this time slot. And I did provide and I did prepare a bunch of stuff to talk about today in a way that I think will add a lot of value to you guys. You know, and first of all, I guess I should ask, how is everyone doing? CJ, how are you doing? Maddie, how are you doing? First of all, yeah, let me just applaud Maddie for the dramatization of his witch calls. Yeah, bravo, bravo. Yep. Fast in, fast out. I agree. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I like that. I like that the whole narrative is there. And by the way, Maddie, that's great because he's using storytelling. Fucking love it. Fucking love it. Bullish on bearish charts. Which chart's bearish? Yeah. Yeah, which chart? Let's talk about the Pyre gas charts, I guess. Oh, the shares. Okay, yeah, the shares will they probably all got dropped by like a single person. I heard people say that. But like the shares are kind of like not really going to behave anywhere near rationally until we get to like higher TWAPs for the peg tokens. Yeah. Well done. Yeah, well done. And I actually drew this up here and I actually don't know if you can see it, so I might redraw it. You know, speaking of which, you know, if you look at Pyre BNB and Pyre AVAX, at least how I saw this earlier, Pyre B and Pyre AVAX overall continue like the uptrend shape, and then Pyre Phantom looks like it fucking stumbled, right? But granted, Pyre Phantom was also the one that everybody was speculating on for some reason, right? Yeah, electronic. We are going to migrate the spooky liquidity soon. We will transplant that soon because the smart contract for redistributing the liquidity is already been tested now. So the lost inventory contract, the one where we're allowed to migrate liquidity and return it, that one now actually has been tested on a testnet, or rather it's about to get tested on a testnet. But I'm going to talk about something that I think is even more important first. Talk about something fundamental and conceptual. Okay. Okay, do you guys see this on the board here? Fantastic, you can see it? Fantastic. Okay, this is the non-linearity of progress. Up only VR? No. This is literally, we're not even talking about price charts. We're talking about real life. We're talking about the regular, we're talking about like all of progress. The non-linearity of progress. Non-linearity. And we talk about linearity. You guys can see that right there. And do you guys know what these words are? And I think you guys in the UK or in Europe pronounce it differently. Linear, things like that. Now I want you guys to know that like every single aspect of this project has made non-linear progress. Does that make sense? We've never had linear progress. Not a single aspect of this has ever been linear. It's never been linear. In fact, I want you guys to know something. Like, we were literally in 2023 making amazing progress with the elastic supply dashboard, and it all got built according to the timeline, right? And then, all of a sudden, we had our major back-end dev. I'm going to change color again. Let me switch to black here. We had our back-end dev depart, and then we had our main project manager depart. Does that make sense? And I literally had 3 devs up here and then we were down to 1. And this, by the way, this is 2023. But now we're back to 3 or 4 devs. Does that make sense? Yep. Oh, well. Yeah. Like, we're not quitting. I mean, if somebody did exit, like, I mean, they must have had a reason for it, or like a time preference. But, like, again, the person that did that is likely not really paying attention. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Or they're not paying attention to something else. Or they might have just had an emergency. Yeah, they might have just had an emergency. Like, you really just don't know. But it's okay. Like, it's okay. Yeah, the person who exited, this is not even what the all-time lows of those tokens would be. Right? The tokens have been way lower before. Yeah. So I hope they exited for a profit at least. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, electronic, like, again, the whole thing does work. It just has been needed to accelerate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you actually, your lowest entry was still half of what it is now? Oh, yeah, Alessio, literally just now, the contract for returning it, which is known as the Lost Inventory and Property Claim Vault, which is called the LIA-PCV, is now getting tested on testnet. Yeah, by the way, yeah, the math guy too there. But again, do you guys know what it took from here? We literally had to get Veloce and Kia Dezo to get back to 3 devs. Does that make sense? Like, literally, so the whole time, we lost 2/3, and then we fucking quadrupled back. Does that make sense? And, like, I was not doing, like, the SOTMA or any of that type of content in 2023 where I was even doing these external-facing demonstrations, as it were, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you look at this, too, in 2022, what was it? In 2022, I was doing these stage channel appearances all the time, right? And then in 2023, I stopped. And then in 2024, I started doing it again, right? Does that make sense? Goodness gracious. Do you guys get it? Do you guys understand? So like every single aspect of this has not been linear. Does that make sense? But like the linearity only makes sense when you look backwards. Does that make sense? Like in the present moment, we go through all these upswings and downswings. Right now, we're trying to get this Reddit strategy off the ground. Our I guess you could say our grassroots style Reddit strategy awareness. And then we had a week where everybody was participating. And then we had a week where everybody stopped participating. Does that make sense? That's how it works. That's how it works. The thing that I can do, I'm gonna actually increase the amount of training we do for Reddit to twice a week. So after this show, after this PYRESWAP show, probably an hour afterwards, I'll make an announcement about it. There'll be another training on Tuesday, which is today, for the Reddit strategy. Does that make sense? Because we had to go from 6 PYRESWAP shows a week to 4, so I could in fact overhaul my schedule in order to figure out where I could spend time where it was needed most. Does that make sense to you guys? So like right now, there's people I think feeling this lull and they're like, oh no, it's a lull. Apparently somebody exited all their share token. It's okay. Like, I'm obviously not quitting now. I don't think anybody else is quitting now. Does that make sense? The fact of the matter is that you watch Pyre Phantom stumble, but again, Pyre Phantom was over speculated in the first place. Yeah, forehead kisses are needed, for sure. But that's also why, like again, you end up with these surges and lulls and these surges and lulls. Does that make sense? Like it does appear like that, right? But then overall, looking backwards, you do have a line of progress. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. It's okay, yeah. I think most of you guys who are, I guess, like the true PYRESWAP faithful will inevitably become whales. Right? Like it's not really possible for that not to be the case. Right? But I want you guys to understand that like when you experience these valleys in progress, it can challenge your motivation, it can challenge your mental state, it can challenge your perspective, but like that's really the test of life. That's really the test of life. Do you guys understand? Like learning how to create those straight lines, what appear to be straight lines, in a world that's actually made of curved ones. Do you guys understand? Like that's really the test of life. Because like reality doesn't have those straight lines. These are these creations of ours. These are these projections of ours. Yeah, like you're gonna have ups and downs. Where you can control the outcome is where you can be consistent. Does that make sense? Like right now, again, you guys are aware, we're overhauling the schedule. We did an airdrop, right? We're in fact trying to get more things happening. We're trying to roll out our awareness campaigns, 2 of them at the same time. I now need to focus more on Reddit. Does that make sense? The good news is I can now focus more on Reddit because I'm only doing 4 PYRESWAP shows a week. Do you guys understand? Like I'm freeing up time, I'm freeing up energy. Do you guys understand? And that right there, I think one of the things my mentor told me a long time ago, he said that sometimes when you're getting better at things, it'll feel like you're getting worse at other things. He's like, but that goes away. The reason that goes away is because right now, where you're getting better, it requires more of your focus because you haven't learned it yet. Does that make sense? But once you learn it, you can go back to being even-handed. You can go back to being strong in the other areas. Does that make sense? But like overall, like we continue. I don't even know what this is. Let me see what Leslie's asking. Oh, you mean the Twitter bio? You mean the Twitter bio, Alessio? Yeah, okay. He's talking about the main Twitter bio. Oh, let's see. Is our let's see who's here today. Okay, you know what? Would you like to suggest one? Yeah. There you go. Twitter bio suggestions, you guys. And no, I agree. It doesn't sound exciting. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. CJ is apparently throwing a prize pack out. Amazing. Yeah, by all means. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, yeah. And no, see, Alessio, we're not married to that at all. I literally think I just threw up there as a fucking placeholder. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. And let me write that down too. That's totally fine. Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I want you to understand though, yeah, fucking, yeah, immolate your bag, yeah, spontaneously combust. I'm kidding. Okay, but I want you guys to understand something. And like, again, this is about being proactive versus being reactive. Does that make sense? All of the progress we made with the Twitter bio we already had, that doesn't mean, like, just now you're thinking, oh, do we have a problem? Should we change something we're doing? Does that make sense? And this is, again, the fact of the matter is that, like, it's for whatever reason, it's like you didn't think that was a problem during this part, but now, if you feel like we're in a lull because Pyre Phantom tumbled or because the share tokens got sold, you're like, oh, what's the problem? Maybe it's the share token. This is like this is very average thinking. I want you to know, like, I don't know whether or not you think it's a problem, but like a lot of people think like, oh, right now I feel bad about it, so I'm gonna like diagnose what I think is bad about it. And this is what everybody does, right? So like literally during the fucking downtrend during hyperinflation, there was people commenting and complaining about stuff. Okay, hey, Alessio, you're not wrong. It's a very like vanilla Twitter bio. It looks like not even ChatGPT wrote it. It looks like literally it was like copied and pasted off of the docs. But I don't disagree. But like, yeah, so I would say be cognizant of how you feel about something. Every single day we have a different diet, we have a different sleep schedule, we have a different like environment, we have a different amount of things that kind of input on our senses, and these things do change our perspective on the world day to day. Like our worldview can change a little bit day to day. Like our lens zooms in and zooms out, right? the amount of caffeine you have, the amount of, you know, whether or not you drink alcohol recently, you know, whether your diet is lined up with your best health. All of these things can make you feel good or bad about something all the time. And it's important that you're aware about the external's ability to affect you, because that way you can be resilient to it and kind of like narrow your focus on the signal and not the noise. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Like again, you know, Pyre Phantom looks like, oh my goodness, is deflation not going to work? But the best part about this is, right, the way that I think about this is that at least we have Pyre BNB. At least Pyre BNB and Pyre AVAX are there to effectively spread out our data. Does that make sense to you guys? Because like if we didn't have Pyre BNP and Pyre AVAX to look at, we would look at Pyre Phantom and be like, oh no, are we not deflationary anymore? Does that make sense? But like rather you can think about like, oh wait, Pyre Phantom was getting over speculated and now it's just getting sold off because again, talking about the charts, talking about nonlinearity of progress, organizational overhauls, the paradigm shift. I keep talking about this shit again and again and again. Man, I really like these markers, by the way. I think if there's anything that's been great recently, is these markers, right? What does this mean? What does this mean? What do these two words mean? Do you guys know? Yeah, okay. A revolution in thought. Yeah, or a change in thought. Or a change in perspective. A change in the way. Yeah, a change in the way. A change in the way that people think. Right? So like the GPSE, right? Is meant to be a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift DAP, we'll call it that. Does that make sense? So the fact of the matter is, you guys, thinking the same way like you did in previous DAPs might not necessarily serve you in PYRESWAP. Does that make sense? This is in fact, by the way, a bit of a obstacle to our own user base growth, right? Would you guys agree? Because the fact of the matter is that like people are willing to change their perspective if like they can literally see in their senses like whatever would make them drool. Does that make sense? The first PS dab ever. Thank you so much, Pyre Producer. But like people who are bringing the old paradigm back in, like they get wrecked. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Like anybody who's passively staking in the witch vault is getting wrecked, right? Anybody who's looking at our price charts, like the same thing would apply to us. Like they're not thinking correctly, right? So a lot of people are bringing like their understanding of DeFi from like a previous paradigm. They're bringing it here, right? And then they just don't understand it, right? Oh, Fexer, great question. Because we're associated with tomb forks. Yes. That is a huge, yeah. And then secondly, yeah, I don't know why you think there are no big people. Yeah, already here. Yeah. Yeah, Fexer, I'll tell you this. I've noticed that the tomb fork, like the tomb fork user base isn't here anymore. Yeah, like the meme coin user base is not the tomb fork user base. So like, yeah, are you aware of that? Like the tomb fork user base, they're not coming back for meme coins. Does that make sense? Like a lot of them left, right? Like they left Web3, they're not really coming back. Like yeah, so like that's a thing as well. Like it's not the same people in Web3. Yeah. Yes, Fexer, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there is just very little sign of them for sure. Fexer, I want you to understand, the person who just sold their whole bag, they're still literally from the old paradigm waiting. Does that make sense? This is also likely true. Maybe, Javery. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but it's also possible that we might just have a completely new user base there as well. Yeah, I don't disbelieve that. Like, we're just going to do marketing. We're just going to do marketing to the point where it doesn't fucking matter. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, oh no, we're going to get them to come back. Maybe we won't get them to come back. Yeah. Like, literally, like the Tomb Fork people, they're not back. Like, I've literally... The Senyard Circus had like 78 members, like at peak Tomb Fork season. And like over half of them aren't back. Like they literally like fell out of DeFi. Does that make sense? So like the people who are literally like as deep as it gets, over half of them aren't in Web3 anymore. Or they're just not really focused on this. Yeah. Yeah, Fexer for sure. And we have these weird shadowy whales that they're only in like Telegram and stuff. Yeah, like I can't really like get into that. Yeah. Fexer, but again, that same guy might literally just come back in like 3 weeks because that's happened all the fucking time. They're just like watch listing. Does that make sense? So they're also bringing in another, like they're still living in the other paradigm. Does that make sense? Like again, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to get out of this because I'm going to go YOLO into something else so I can narrow my focus elsewhere. Yeah, right? And then they go, oh wait, I'm gonna go back and chase PYRESWAP again when it's mooning, right? Or when fucking when Metatrage happens, right? So like again, this is okay. Yeah, like this is okay. And the fact of the matter is, we had a bunch of people in the Discord, right, who were extremely like super bullish, right? But then we hyperinflated for a month, right? So it's like, where did they go? Where did they go? They'll be back, right? Because they're just gonna go back into FOMO. They're a FOMO sapien. Does that make sense? Yeah, they're a FOMO sapien. Like this is like again, you just see it again and again and again. Yeah, it just like again, I don't even think of it, Fexer, like we lost them. Does that make sense? Like literally, as soon as like the chart goes up again, they'll be like, oh shit. Literally, who was speculating on Pyre Phantom, Fexer? It was the same people in this Discord. Did we lose them when we were like? Does that make sense? They were just waiting for the thing to look appealing to them. Does that make sense? They were just waiting for the moments where they had to be motivated to buy. Like you know what I mean? Every single person has dry powder. Does that make sense? Like if they wanted dry powder, they can go find dry powder. Do you get what I'm saying? Like so it's like, wait a minute. Like am I not getting the maximum amount from like I don't even need that. Yeah. Again, by the way, I want to make this clear as well. First of all, this is meant to be a paradigm shift DApp. So the fact of the matter is, it's just going to have that level of difficulty there, right? When we talk about our user base goals of getting to like 300 people, I do mean 300 people that understand it. Like 300 people that like get it. It's not impossible. We're over 10% there. We might be over 20% or even 30% there, right? You don't always see them every single day. Does that make sense? You don't always see them. But like the fact of the matter is like they definitely get it, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Like they definitely get it. But it like requires for them to either get to the point where they can actually see that their money is scaling from it. Does that make sense? Not everybody has the same time preference as Why So Cynical, right? Why So Cynical is like, wait a minute. So if I just do this 4 times a day until the rest of Genesis, it'll be only deflationary and then I don't give a shit. Like I'll be stupid rich. Does that make sense? So like if there's one guy, he's like, oh, I already figured it out. This is brainless. I don't got to think about this. I got to log in 10 minutes, 4 times a day. Right, I gotta play this game, and I'm just gonna compound to the end of Genesis. Right, I'm gonna hold on the same bag. Like I can take losses, I can fucking crush the EPR, etc., etc. But then at the end of the day, it has to deflate. Right, they already made that conclusion. Right, but not everybody has that same time preference. We are in fact appealing to the fact that not everybody gets it at the same level. Not everybody likes the same parts of PYRESWAP, but that's what makes it work. This is just a paradigm shift because most DeFi projects. They take their entire user base, they put all the penguins on the same fucking iceberg. Do you get what I'm saying? They put all the penguins on the same iceberg. And that, again, is flimsiness, right? So the fact that we have 4 Discord servers, right? We've got like fucking 10 different dApps, right? Some of them don't exist yet, right? Like this is just a paradigm shift. It's like, wait a minute, etc., etc. Yeah. Yeah, then dry the Titanic. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh no. Yeah, it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have all been penguins, right? But like, again, that is the status quo. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then a front run to get out too. Yeah, everybody run before the Titanic hits or before the orcas come. Make sense? Anyways, yeah. And again, yeah, like, so like, it's like, you might be thinking that like, wait a minute, I'm not getting sensory feedback that we're making progress. I want you guys to understand something. We have this funnel, right? You guys have seen this, right? Awareness, consideration, right? Purchase, right? Retention, and advocacy, right? You guys have seen this? I must have drawn this up here now 10 times, right? I think it's great, obviously. Right? The marketing funnel, as it were. The customer's buyer journey. Everybody follow me? Who here has never seen me draw this before? Okay, so I'm assuming everyone's seen it. We don't even have the awareness machines running yet. Does that make sense? We are still building the bicycle for awareness. So like, we're not even marketing yet. We are in fact training and building the things that will actually do the awareness generation. Right now, our Twitter, just about being consistent. The PYRESWAP show, just about being consistent. We want our charts to just look like a deflationary uptrend. We're not trying to take anything to the moon right now. We want new people to come in thinking that there's still opportunity for them. Does that make sense? We don't want it to moon and then, oh no, it's over. Does that make sense? That's what happened to Pyre Phantom just now, right? But what'll happen actually is that Pyre Phantom will just get back onto a deflationary uptrend. Yeah, like it's supposed to be. Like it's like now it'll look more like Pyre BNB and Pyre AVAX, which is just meant to be this steady clambering climb. People will begin speculating it when we actually have awareness machines running. Does that make sense? We don't have awareness running. We don't. Yeah. Make sense? Yeah, like we're in fact building it. Like, we're going to make a great bicycle, but right now we're still welding the frame. Right now we are still putting air in the tires. So like, it's not running yet. I don't think you should expect to see any results. Like, don't expect to see us win any races with it if there isn't any, you know, if the bicycle doesn't have handlebars yet. Make sense? Yeah, like again, it's more like work that's getting done in the background, right? That was happening all of 2023 as well. So for those of you who have been through 2023, like just think about like how much comms you didn't get. Think about how much gaps there were in communication then. Like 2023 was super hard. Yeah. Harder than 2024 in my opinion. Make sense? Yeah. So like the fact of the matter is like, yeah, I don't know. Like, oh no, we're not seeing this, we're not seeing that. Like there's a whole bunch of people that are again just, you know, like, yeah, I'll tell you this. Like a lot of people that are quote unquote like larger players or institutionals, I am not like, how should I describe it? I'm not amenable to them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because the fact of the matter is, those are the same people, Fexer, who are saying, okay, I'll come into your project if you change these 4 design features. They can go fuck themselves. Yeah, I don't need them. Does that make sense? Like literally right now, we can get back to meterage, like with the same size user base. Does that make sense? You guys will be rich enough from emissions to deepen the liquidity, and then meterage itself will climb back up. Like we don't even need that. Right? It's like, yeah, it's like, oh no, I need somebody with $8 million to go YOLO it at fucking Pyre AVAX. No, that's not it. Yeah. Yeah, Fexer. And again, I don't know if you know this, but the institutional side, I'm going to tell you about this shit. Because I am like the Martin Luther. Do you guys know who Martin Luther is? Do you guys know who Martin Luther, the original Martin Luther? The guy who nailed the list to the wall in the church? I am like the DeFi Martin Luther. Yeah, the 95 Theses. Does that make sense? Because when we think about like DeFi conventionalism, they think about things like impermanent loss, MEV, fucking, the way that they think about it is like arbitrage bots are participating in MEV. They don't really look at game theory. They analyze things like incredibly stupidly, and they kind of design, okay, they deliberately, like when I think about DeFi conventionalism, they don't question the validity of using US dollars as numeraire. Does that make sense? Like there's this thank you. Like they don't question the validity of that. It's like I want you guys to understand something. The biggest narratives about Bitcoin and this technology is how it's better than the dollar, right? It's better than the dollar. Now, it makes sense to use the dollar as a numeraire to prove that it's better than the dollar when you look at it like long term. Does that make sense? But when you think about it like in the sense of alpha, right? Like it makes sense to use US dollar to measure beta performance, right? But if you're looking at it like as this is what people want as far as like alpha performance, if they're not shifting the paradigm in the user's head, does that make sense? So like, okay, there is an upside to effectively not always being better against the dollar, but better against another token. Does that make sense? Which is the whole crypto winner concept, right? Like if they're kind of focusing on like, hey, users primarily care about their dollar return. And it's like, yes, this is true, but like from a design principle, you just have to make that like feasible and not necessarily like the point. Because if that's the case, you're just building a pump and dump. So like the status quo and all the people that are like venture capital in the status quo, they literally worship a false god, in my opinion. Does that make sense? Like they are, in fact, everybody doesn't know shit, so they keep correcting to the next guy. And by the way, I'm about to teach from this textbook how finance works. I'm about to teach from this textbook today. Right here. I'm going to literally take a picture of the front page of this for you guys. I'm going to put it on fucking... Yeah, well, okay, I got to retake it because apparently that's... Right. So this is in Discord, I guess, and maybe I should post it into fucking Twitter as well. But okay, no big deal. But I'm gonna recite it anyways. Many in finance like to shroud what they do in order to intimidate outsiders. So you already have this status quo of like everybody is so nervous that they're like ousted for like maybe not knowing what they're talking about. Does that make sense? So that they end up like correcting to some other thought leader who is willing to make a safe generalization. And if you've heard me talk about the way human nature is on Reddit, it's similar to the same thing. Does that make sense? Because like everybody's so fucking unclear on like what's good and what's bad, they end up like all correcting to this self-fulfilling prophecy that's like whatever narrative makes the most sense that wins them the confidence of their followers, right? So everyone's like, you know, how do I describe it? Okay, this is the concept of launching like new smart chains all the time. Does that make sense? Or launching a new meme coin all the time. Like every new meme coin launch now has diminishing returns. Like it's less and less likely to take off, right? Because arguably more people have now lost money than made money, right? Right? But like the fact of the matter is, it's still safer to be wrong, right? Their own risk, yeah. They still think it is safer to be wrong where everyone is wrong, right? It is safer to be wrong where everyone is wrong. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Jabri, these are the thought leaders. Like, these are the thought leaders. Does that make sense? So they end up talking about these lofty kind of narratives that make no sense. And I want you guys to understand, by the way, I'm a Christian just to declare, but like, when you think about the way religion got invented, right, where you ended up with these extremely kind of like narrative-based explanations for these phenomenon, right? You had these hunter-gatherers, and they would see a lightning storm or they would see a tornado, right? And they'd be like, what the fuck is that, right? Can you guys imagine, like, being a Paleolithic hunter-gatherer, right? Barely sapient, right? And then you see a fucking tornado, right? And you're like, what the fuck could that possibly be, right? And literally, anybody who's able to tell this narrative about what is causing that tornado, if it's one of those things where it's just like lofty enough where they can't question, but the explanation makes sense to a storyteller brain, like that's what ends up getting accepted. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, we can prove this and we can prove this. It's like, oh yeah, that math works as long as I don't question the underlying thinking that created that math, right? Yeah. Shit. Okay. In DeFi, one of like the biggest, I guess you could say, boogeymen. Yeah. So one of the big boogeymen is impermanent loss, right? Now, what's funny here is that it's not a loss. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not a loss. Yeah, that's not what a loss is. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like the same way that if you buy a stock but not the option, and then the number goes up, yeah, it's like that's not a loss. Right? Yeah. And by the way, as far as the user base goes, if we had 300 people with $100, which would be 30 grand, that would be better than 3 people with $1 million. Does that make sense? So like 300 people with $100, right, which is about 30 grand, that is better, in fact, for the function of it all, than 3 people with $1 million. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like you gotta understand, the person who's holding that $1 million, they're gonna go park it on Curve and stable swaps. Does that make sense? They're gonna park it on a stable swap. They're gonna get 18% APR, and they're gonna feel like a fucking gangster because they're technically beating the market return. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, and then by the way, we deliberately have fragmented liquidity, which everybody's like, I don't understand this. Does that make sense? Like every single thing we do, like, is just so fundamentally contrarian. Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. Again, and I'm gonna talk about utilizers and speculators here, but impermanent loss, first of all, it's not a loss. Second of all, it implies impermanence is bad. Right? So it literally describes itself as impermanent. It's also not a loss, but then also like, the whole, you have to go behind here and it's like, wait a minute, this is not a loss. You're actually just measuring two different fucking vehicles. Secondly, you're not even measuring the actual way that liquidities actually collect. Does that make sense? Secondly, you're also not measuring the things that happened in between price A and price B. So like it is literally a fucking apples to oranges comparison. Does that make sense? The whole impermanent loss, even though you could say, wait a minute, it would be optimal to not be in an LP if I think this token's gonna go up. Sure. This is true. However, it is still apples to oranges because the fact of the matter is, LP makes money in the vertical and in the horizontal. So like you have to think about what is the time it takes to go from A to B. None of these things are measured in the impermanent loss narrative. Does that make sense? So like impermanent loss, I consider it a boogeyman, and if you actually pull on a thread, it's like, okay, these guys who invented the idea have no idea what they're fucking talking about. Secondly, impermanent loss was invented by a fucking project. Was literally a narrative. Yeah, this was narrative marketing. Bancor named this. Bancor. Do you guys know about Bancor? Do you guys know this project? Okay, Javery, Bancor raised $100 million in venture capital based on their narrative, their marketing narrative about how impermanent loss was bad. Does that make sense? Bancor, and by the way, I'm not talking about DeFi Bancor, not John Keynes' Bancor, okay? DeFi Bancor, name this. Yeah, they raised $100 million that their DEX solved impermanent loss. Does that make sense? DEXs have impermanent loss, but ours solves impermanent loss. I'm gonna pull it up now. Let's see how Bancor is doing. And if we go and look, let's search for Bancor. Yeah, let's search for Bancor. Do you guys see it on my screen? What's the market cap there? Do you guys see my screen? Look at this. Look at this fucking chart, dude. Their market cap and their TVL was $2.3 billion. They had a $2.3 billion TVL. Their market cap was way fucking higher. Let's see what their market cap used to be. Oh my God. Their market cap used to be $2.25 billion. Look at it today. Look at it today. Do you guys get it? Well, Pega, yes. Pega, you're correct. Pega, you're correct. They wanted it to use pain point language. Does that make sense? Oh, but Pyre Producer, I want you to know, they're not just like a pump and dump or things like that. Like, they failed. Does that make sense? Bancor Exchange is a failed project. They raised $100 million in venture capital. Their market cap is now worth less than that. Do you guys understand? Their TVL is now less than that. Because their entire thing was wrong. Like, all they did was just prove this variable again and again and again. Like, they're like, how do we incentivize LP to da-da-da-da? I believe there's a solution to that, which involves the liquidity dashboard. Yeah. But again, Pega, now everybody does this, right? Everybody now parrots impermanent loss. But what they don't realize is that, like, failed project marketing concept. That's where this comes from. And a guy named Nate Hindeman, the first paper on impermanent loss was written by a guy named Nate Hindeman. You can look it up. Yes, Alessio, I did address that. Look, we are not even running our awareness engines. Yeah. By the way, we will be doing Reddit training today in about 63 minutes. 63 minutes. We're going to do another Reddit training. We're going to do Reddit training twice a week this time. Okay? We'll be doing it twice a week for the foreseeable future. Okay? Yeah. Oh yeah, the earth is flat until it isn't, then it goes back to being flat. Well done, Jabri. Well done. Okay. Joel, we are literally, I'm overhauling my schedule just for the purpose of adding more energy into marketing. Yeah, we are getting known. KNOWN. Anyways, so the fact of the matter is, impermanent loss is not a completely useless piece of math. The fact of the matter is, though, it should be called cross lambda. Does that make sense? And it wouldn't be the only thing you look at. Does that make sense? You would literally look at cross lambda against other things because you would look at the plus sides of fucking deploying liquidity. Yeah, Alessio, we are lacking because we are in fact getting our Reddit machine running and then we're getting our short form thing running. Yeah. Yeah, like again, Alessio, I had to spend 3 days just to convince you guys to say good morning to each other. It took 3 days of campaigning to convince people to say good morning to each other. So for something like getting the marketing machine running, you can expect it might take longer than 3 days. Does everybody understand? Does everybody get it? So I'm going to be doing twice a week training to everybody who wants to join us in the Reddit strategy server, Tuesdays and Fridays, twice a week until we actually have it humming away. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's see. Organism overhauls. Okay, so it is what it is. Okay. Okay, so first of all, let's see. The Twitter bio suggestions, how finance works, most central intuitions. Okay, so from this book, fortunately, you can learn the central intuitions of finance. So first of all, this is a key word right here. Central intuitions of finance. So this right here, I think, is what's most critical about this book, because I think that once you can gain the intuitions, you will actually be able to think about DeFi from central intuitions. Does that make sense? I would argue that what we're trying to do here from a broader perspective is actually create central intuitions for fucking DeFi. Does that make sense? Okay. Internalizing these intuitions will provide the foundation for addressing financial issues with confidence and curiosity for the rest of your life. The prerequisites for understanding this are only curiosity and perseverance. And the book is intended for anybody who wants to deepen the understanding of finance. So again, that's great. And it goes right into analysis, using ratios to analyze performance. So when we talk about financial analysis, which is the first really intuition, using ratios to analyze. Now, it says all while playing a game. I like that it says playing a game, but it's going to be kind of confusing. But the fact of the matter is, the game will introduce the world of finance by understanding how to use numbers, the critical process. In using ratios, you'll understand by comparing numbers in a common way, you develop intuition for the sources of performance. But how safe is it? Okay. How safe is it to lend to a company? How financially rewarding is it to be a shareholder? How much value? Each of these questions cannot be answered. Yeah. Finance questions. Cannot be answered. By a single number. This is the key takeaway. Finance questions cannot be answered by looking at a single number. Like, this is true in modern finance. This is true in DeFi even more. Do you guys understand? Yeah, Jolt-in is correct. Like, they're literally traumatized. We effectively have to get a completely new user base. We already have 9,000 people across our Discords. We have 9,000 fucking people. Do you guys know what I mean? First of all, those 9,000 people didn't leave. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, they stopped. But Javery, we've had 9,000 people since 2022. Does that make sense? We had 9,700. We probably have like 9,900 now or whatever. The fact of the matter is, Discord stopped being the maze. Discord stopped being the bullish-ish. Hey, Javery, it's not bearish, I'll tell you that. It's not bearish, but the fact of the matter is, I thought that was enough. I thought, hey guys, I have 9,000 Discord users. There's no way I need to do marketing for this project. Does that make sense? I literally said, hey guys, guess what? We got 9,000 Discord users across 5 servers, so we're not going to need to do marketing. Right? I literally said that. Hey, by the way, guys, remember I said it for a year. I said it for a fucking year. Right? We won't need marketing. Don't worry. We got 9,000 people. I thought I had it in the bag. Oh, yeah. But Javery, it is a true 9,000. They're just not here anymore. Yeah, they're just not here anymore. Yeah, Alessio, we're not running. Yeah. Alessio, we are avoiding Tomb Forks as an interest, as a first look. We are avoiding Tomb Fork mentions. Yeah, so can I make this explicit? We are avoiding mentioning Tomb Forks. So it's not like we're not leveraging. We are leveraging by avoiding mentioning it. Yeah, there's more to gain from not mentioning Tomb Forks than there is from mentioning it. To be clear, I can't stress this enough. Mentioning Tomb Forks about this project is a dislike. This is not our first rodeo. Yeah. Alessio, clearly that's like a lot, like half of it were bots or better. Yeah. Our Twitter marketing is not attractive because it's not going to be. Yeah. Like, again, have I talked about this enough? Alessio, Twitter is in what phase of the funnel? What phase of the funnel is Twitter in? No. Yeah, I'm not trying to get institutional investors, I guess. Institutional investors, I don't think exist really in fucking Web3, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, these points are true until you keep thinking about, like, I don't know. This is still not a paradigm shift enough. Yeah, like going back to this list. We are unknown, yes. People like meme coins slightly, yes, too. Other projects are more attractive on a first look impression. That's not true. Yeah, that is a conjecture. We're not leveraging. That is correct because the paradigm is wrong. We are avoiding tomb forks as an interest point. Twitter pages is like literally the fact that we have bots. Yeah, that like a lot of those followers are bots. Yeah, our Twitter marketing is not attractive. Yeah, that's not even how Twitter works. Yeah, like our Twitter is not for the sake of generating awareness. Again, go over that again. Because, Alessio, that reduces confidence in this project. Phantom Foundation is not touching this project because of tomb forks. Yeah, tomb forks is a bad look. Nobody believes in me. Does that make sense? They don't, like, it's easier for them to believe that tomb forks are bad than that there's happens to be one guy on the whole internet who knows how to fix them. Does that make sense? Right? It's safer to believe that. Yeah. Yeah, like again, like the level of understanding is to the fucking floor. Yeah. Alessio, I need to teach them how PYRESWAP works. Yeah, like you're asking, like you're, okay, the size of the spoon to put in their mouth can only be so big. Yeah, like Alessio, the old tomb fork base isn't here, and the ones that are hate tomb forks. Yeah. Yeah, like find us, Alessio, find me a community that they still have like this belief in tomb forks. Because all the tomb forks, I mean, electronic in its most, it's literally, it's more about like describing active staking. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Because like you want to just describe it as what's in it for them. So you talk about like the real yield, the higher risk of real yield. Yeah. Yeah, but Alessio, where are those people? Yeah, Alessio, can you point to me like where a community of people who know about tomb forks is? That are actually bullish on it? Yeah. Because that group doesn't exist anymore. Because like Alessio, I do this all the time. Does that make sense? Yeah, like that base does not exist anymore. Like that group of people, there's no longer a village, there's no longer a server, there's no longer a Telegram, right? Yeah. It's better to just literally go to people and teach them about PYRESWAP in the first place. Secondly, Alessio, if I go to a tomb fork investor, they just go buy the tomb fork token, which doesn't even do anything to solve the problem. Which again, solving the problem is getting a user base for the Witch game. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like solving the problem is what I keep talking about. Increase the user base of the Witch game. Yeah. And then like literally like but Pega, and then those people, they literally are only there for Harry Ye. Does that make sense? Like they didn't go to other tomb forks. Alessio, literally like right now in the other tomb fork servers, there's still guys that are just like clicking the button, staking, and then turning their fucking brain off. Like right now. Yeah. I believe that that's one person for sure. But like the fact of the matter is that like they still have to have like their own incentive to like complete the fucking circuit in their head. Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that person just misses the days. It doesn't mean they believe that those days can come back. Does that make sense? That person probably just didn't sell at the top. So like, oh, I missed that time because I could have sold the top. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like they just happen to be up during some gambling times. Yep. Yeah, I don't think that's exactly Yeah, I think it makes more sense. It makes more sense. Yeah, it makes more sense to literally just go out to literally where we know we can get fucking eyeballs and it's under our control. Like, I'm not going out to panhandle to large players, or I'm not going out to those old communities which don't exist anymore. Like, literally, like, wipe all that away from the strategy. Like, get more fundamental. Get more fundamental. You guys, the YouTubers we used, the YouTubers themselves told me every single one of them has a bigger audience. They had a bigger audience than when they did in 2022. Does that make sense? Every YouTuber we've used. Every YouTuber has a bigger audience. In 2024 than they did in 2022. Would you guys agree? Would you guys agree? Do you guys understand? Every single YouTuber, the 4 YouTubers we had, they all have bigger audiences. Every single one of them told me they're not going to be as effective in 2024 as in 2022 because the marketing meta shifted. I talk about this stuff all the time. I don't know why you guys are not listening to what I'm saying. Yeah, they all told me they're not going to be able to move the needle as much as they could in 2022. Like, Yabonks told me when he had 10,000 followers or less, he was able to make millions of dollars show up in projects. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore. Yeah. He's like, now I knew who all my subscribers was. Now he says there could be 50,000 bots. I would have no idea. He's like, I do not have that tight-knitness. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly, Joel. But the fact of the matter is our user base is not on Twitter. Does that make sense? Yeah, our user base is not on Twitter. Twitter is only in the consideration stage. I keep going over this. Awareness, consideration. Does that make sense? Do you guys think Twitter is up here or down here? Where's Twitter? It's not. Yeah, Jabri, it's not. Twitter. Yeah, it's not. Twitter is in consideration. Do you know what else is in consideration? Discord. The Twitter goes and it promotes and it shills the shit out of the project, but it's not actually there to convert off of Twitter. Do you understand? It is not there to convert off of Twitter. It's there to convert off of people researching the project. Does that make sense? Because when people research the project, what are they going to go do? Shit, you know what else is in the consideration? The fucking uptrend. Yeah, they're going to go to the site. They're going to go to the Discord. They're going to go to the Twitter. They're going to look at the chart. Does that make sense? The consideration stage is what the Twitter, the Discord, and the chart are for. Do you guys understand? None of these things raise awareness. Do you guys understand why? Because awareness right now, for a chart to do it, you need to have a volume bot crunching numbers. Does that make sense? Discord does not raise awareness anywhere. Does that make sense? It's only to get them into this stage. Does that make sense? They look at the Twitter, they see that it's active. Does that make sense? They see that people are engaged with it. Does that make sense? They see that the project is alive. Make sense? They're not thrown off by the fact that it has 10,000 followers but only 8 retweets because lots of accounts have fucking have purchased followers. We didn't buy followers, by the way. We acquired this account from Piggy Finance, and I think they bought followers. I don't fucking know. I gotta go over this every single day, don't I? Like, until people understand. What is awareness? What do we have for awareness? What is actually raising awareness? Stickers is one. Yeah, but you know what, Jabri? Stickers is also for fucking Twitter. Yeah, no, the PYRESWAP show is also not awareness. Yeah, until it gets turned into short form. Yeah, until it gets turned into short form, this is literally just like engagement down here. Our advocacy and retention are so good because of the PYRESWAP show, right? The PYRESWAP show being on Twitter is great for the consideration stage. Wouldn't you guys agree? If you went into a Twitter account to research a project and you saw they did live streams 4 times a week, bullish, right? Bullish? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, our user, like our follower base, like they're either already informed or they're not. Does that make sense? It's okay. It's okay. Like I'm not gonna stop doing the show, right? What do we do for awareness? Awareness. We got 2 things. We got Reddit. You can say stickers are awareness, but honestly, stickers are better for the photographs of the sticker than they are for the stickers themselves. And I'm going to show you guys an image. We have Reddit, and then we also have the short forms. Shorts. Reddit and shorts. Does that make sense? By the way, Reddit and shorts are not really rolling yet. We're still teaching people Reddit. We're still teaching people shorts. Does that make sense? Until they're rolling, do not expect awareness to be getting generated. Like, we're literally not doing it. Like, are you guys doing it? Right? TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Reels, yes. Oh my God, Alessio, we are literally not raising awareness right now. We are building in the background. I said this 4 times. Yeah, like there is no marketing. Like how glaringly obvious it is. Marketing, 0. Awareness, yeah, there is a 0 here. I've been saying this for weeks. Twitter, Discord, and the uptrend is just for the consideration stage. I don't give a shit about hitting the fucking meterage TWAP, right? I want it to look like a drool dumbass uptrend that everybody can like check the box in their head and then move into more research. Yeah, like there is no awareness generation. Like we are training on it right now. Clear? The bicycle that you want us to win the race with, we are still welding. Did I not go over the bicycle metaphor earlier this show? Who here remembers me talking about a bicycle? Okay, thank you, Jabri. Yeah, like I go over this again and again. Like listen to what I'm saying. I'm talking about this all the time. Yeah, there is no awareness. There is no awareness effort happening right now. We are building that. Does that make sense? It is in development. Yeah, not computer development, but in development. Thank you, Electronic, for that amazingly contextual fucking GIF. Anyways, I would go into ratios and other stuff like that, but I'll end it here. Like, we talked about how we're great at the bottom of the funnel. We have everything we already have at the bottom of the funnel. Consideration. All we want is for consideration checks to pass them. Do you remember me talking about perfuncto heuristic? Okay, why was I using that word? Because that is the consideration stage. Does that make sense? Like literally the first problem was like, okay, well now that we know what the customer's buyer journey is, we have to think about like where is PYRESWAP strong and where are we weak? Like I know I've been using this funnel for like a month now. Does that make sense? So in order to think about what are the things that affect advocacy, affect retention, affect purchase, affect consideration, we have to think about what is the activity we're doing on the day-to-day that move the needle area. Does that make sense? The chart, when the chart was hyperinflating, that was obviously not helping consideration. Does that make sense? Which is why we turned off hyperinflation. But the good news is we now have enough tokens. Does that make sense? Like there was no point in turning off inflation before we had enough tokens. Does that make sense? Because if we were just going to go back up in price and liquidity was going to be shallow, meterage was going to do exactly what it was doing back in March. Do you guys understand? And it was going to take fucking forever. Do you guys understand? Like literally, it takes less time to go minus 99 and then back, right, than it does to just kind of like shuttle away there in meterage, right? Yeah. I know that this might, like, The method to my madness might be incomprehensible, but like I'm doing all of this. Is it clear? Okay, perfunctory heuristic. What are the decisions they're going to make in their head when they think about doing a cursory analysis? Yeah, busy to the point that I'm going to die, Jabri. Yeah, I'm kidding. But like, holy shit. What's the analysis? What's the analysis? They're going to look at our Twitter. They're going to look at our Discord. They're going to look at our chart. So naturally, what do we do to get the consideration stage ready? There was no point in doing any marketing when everybody in the chat was being pessimistic. So I had to teach you guys and spoon feed you to say good morning to each other first, right? Does that make sense? So first we got the Discords under control, and we taught grown men how to say good morning to each other. I know, big flex. If I can do that, anything is possible. Does that make sense? Oh, don't worry, I take AG1. I take AG1. Yeah. It's got tested for over 950 toxins, so they say. Super expensive, right? $90 a month. There's cheaper ones out there. I'm thinking about switching to a, yeah. I would say you do feel the difference for sure. You do feel the difference. Yeah, it is really good for you. Anyways, consideration is now handled. We now have the Twitter. We got 2 Twitters. Does that make sense? And the Twitters are like regularly posting content. Does that make sense? Oh, hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much to whoever's on Kick here supporting us. Thank you so much, buddy, gang. Buddy Guy streams. Thanks. Does it work? AG1 works, yeah. Okay, so then Twitter works now, right? Now our chart is in an uptrend. Clickety click. Now we have the perfuncto heuristic checks where somebody will continue researching after awareness is raised. There was no point in raising awareness before their consideration checks were going to get taken care of. Does that make sense? I mean, that seems even more expensive than AG1 in my opinion. But anyways, now that we have consideration checks handled, we're now building our awareness. We're not going to use outside vendors as the first piston of our awareness. We're going to handle that all in-house, like in the product itself. The user base itself will be engaged with this, which is what the training we're going to do in exactly 47 minutes. Or sorry, 37 minutes. Anyways, yeah, I'll just have this over there. Anyone, does anyone have any questions? I had a good time today. Did you guys have a good time? We'll go more into that textbook later, I think. Yeah. I like that sometimes during the show, I'm just like yelling, you know? But again, that's all about the paradigm shift. Yeah. Yeah, but why is it up? Because the share coin got sold? This is about time preference. Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like, again, I feel like I have to yell sometimes to just get over, like, to like really nail down what I'm actually talking about, because I'm talking about a central theme and everyone's like, it's a mystery. What are we missing? Damn, 5 days ago, nobody thought we were missing shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about the non-linearity of progress. I'm like, could you guys relax? Like, it hasn't been linear the whole time. Yeah. Yeah, like it hasn't been linear the whole time. You have this bullish week, then a bearish week, then a bullish month, then a bearish month. Then you have a year where I don't do any content. Then you have a year where I'm doing this 4 to 6 times a week. Right? Shit, we were doing the Ultimate Hour AMA like 3 times a day in the first, like, in February and fucking March, right? But like nobody was on Discord, right? Nobody was on Discord. What the heck? Yeah. We're not going to stop doing this, right? Yeah, Javery, like next year, next year I expect to have, I would like to do this less, but we will have a lot more, again, short form content. Yeah, reruns. We'll just do reruns. Yeah, we'll actually be on the, what's that channel? TV Land? Yeah, we'll have PYRESWAP show on TV Land in like the Nick at Night. Anyways, whatever. We'll actually do a remake. So what we'll do is we'll have a different actor show up to B5. Yeah. Anyways, point being, yeah, we'll have my stunt double. Yeah, the best of 5. But the best of 5 makes sense. And yeah, the whole point being is that it hasn't been linear the whole time. Fucking relax. Yeah. Like, I am overhauling my schedule. By the way, I changed the time I go to sleep. I changed the time I woke up. Does that make sense? I have more people moving here to help with the project. But this is like, it's not like just because you're like not getting some sensory input that something's happening doesn't mean something's not happening. Somebody else decided to sell because they saw a lull or they were looking for an exit. Maybe they literally just got into a car accident and they need the fucking money for emergency. Does that make sense? Like, everybody thinks it's just something about the project. No, it's just something about them. Does that make sense? Yeah. The institutional investor, like, once they get all tenured, they stay in the realm that made them money the first time. Does that make sense? So they might just raise venture capital, create a fake fucking narrative, and then pump and dump on retail. Because that's what worked 3 years ago. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, legitimately, I keep telling you guys about like how the Incarnation Witch Vault is a balanced game to the point that being the whale doesn't make sense like all the time. And everyone's like, why isn't there a whale? And it's, again, the guy who's a whale is like playing with like $500 total. That's not a whale, by the way. Like a $500 position. That's not a whale position. That's just like relative to what's happening right now. Right? Yeah. It isn't easy for whales. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Like, legitimately, this is also a fucking micro cap as well. Yeah. Nobody was buying T-share off the floor either. Right? Like, it had to fucking get legs by itself, grassroots. Every single one of you dozen people in here right now, howdy, Angelica, 699, howdy. Everybody who's in here right now, like, again, there's more of you out there. Does that make sense? Like, there's more of you out there. Like, people that can actually wrap their heads around this. Does that make sense? Jaybreed, it is what it was. Yeah, it is what it was. Right? So all you do is we just have to have our awareness generations, our awareness machines running to the point that we can get the people that, first of all, they have to hear about the project multiple times to knock them into consideration. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, most people are hearing about a bunch of tokens all the time now. Does that make sense? So, like, you have to meet them. Like, you have to get on their eyeballs multiple times before, and like, they'll keep jumping between awareness and consideration. They'll be aware, they'll look, they'll consider. They'll jump back to awareness. Does that make sense? And then eventually what you do is you have all these people crossing over a line and back. That's literally who the fuck, whoever sold the share token, they're in that same position. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we also have 3 tokens if you don't count the fucking Tomb Fork tokens, right? Again, there's a huge paradigm shift, but it's not impossible. There's no metric to measure us by. Does that make sense? Like, literally, we just base on the fundamentals of what it'll take. But, like, again, yeah, like, we're in a deflationary uptrend, okay? Yeah, relax. Yeah, relax. Yeah. We're not doing another Genesis. Yeah, we're not doing another Genesis, okay? The unicorn of DeFi, that's it, yeah. The unicorn. I want you guys to understand, it had to have been so much harder for Satoshi Nakamoto. It had to have been so much harder for Satoshi Nakamoto, right? But you understand that, like, he wasn't even marketing it for the sake of making money, right? He was just trying to get some people to enter into an experiment with him. Do you know what I mean? All right, well, I'm now turning this off for real. Thank you guys so much for coming to the PYRESWAP show. Thank you, my producer, for being my producer, and have a great rest of your day.